Georgiana, my mother, and my father, late of this parish, and my brothers, 12 brothers, sir.
So where do you live?
I think it's a great script to work on. It's a lovely, lovely script, and I think it offers lots of opportunities to actors to do interesting things and to play. And one of the things that I think my job to do in rehearsal is to create a good space for everybody to contribute and to enjoy the business of making theatre. And working with Dave and the composer and Monica, the designer, and Hannah, the assistant director, and the whole team, Emma and the cast. I think everybody should have their opportunity to feed in and to contribute, because it's not just my ideas that are good. I don't want everybody to do my production of Great Expectations. I want it to be something that we've come upon together.
Don't commit yourself, don't commit anyone. You understand, Mr. Pitt? Anyone.
Mr. Jaggers!
Don't tell me anything. I am not curious. I want to know nothing.
Can you at least confirm that what I've been told is true?
Did you say told? Try conform. Told would seem to imply verbal communication. You can't have verbal communication with a man in New South Wales.
Can you confirm, then, that what I've been informed is true?
That's better, Mr. Pitt. Much better.
I loved working with the script. I've never worked on Jo's script before, one of her scripts before, and I think it's fantastic. So getting your head around the style of it and the fantastic words that are given, because it's very sort of distilled version of the novel, of the story, and so getting your head all around that has been very exciting. Working with the music and the sound there, which I don't actually have to do, but it really helps. It's like having a soundtrack. It's like being in a film.
I thought it would be nice to somehow use sounds that have concrete sounds and meaning. So money, for instance, is a recurring sound that happens in it. So money has meaning, obviously, as well. And then somehow take it away from its literal meaning on the stage, and then what happens is that it gets taken to the outside, to the edges of the stage, and the actors are still activating the sound, but then through using amplification and a couple of little things, it can then become more of a soundscape, or whatever kind of word you want to use to describe it, but that it becomes something else, which is more that you can highlight a particular part of that sound, and then the meaning and the sound itself, and then if it's underlying something else, you have all these combinations of those different kind of sound objects and meanings, and they can combine in really unusual ways. I was always looking for something that was a little unusual or not so solid, these sounds sometimes that are just kind of escaping away. So a sound like this. Now this is a rubber ball, a bouncy ball, on the end of a little stick. And if you draw it across the skin of a drum, you get this sound. You get these quite disturbing groaning sounds sometimes. Now, depending on the situation where you use it, it can take on all sorts of different meanings. But what I was interested in about working with the actors as musicians is that you can also do things, especially in the theatre, where it's just a sound effect. So a sound, an object makes a sound, it's a sound effect. But I don't like the idea of sound effects so much, or they don't interest me so much. What I'm interested in then is taking something that can have a sound like that, but then you play it, and actually, you know, there are lots of different ways that you can get different sounds, or you can make it even low and groaning if you play it. You can get different pitches out of it, and you learn to play it like any other musical instrument. And the actors then as we go through rehearsals and stuff, become more skilled at playing these different sounds.
So I came to London. You want to see a hanging? No, thank you very much.
I can show you a judge.
Dave and I have worked together a number of times, and I think he's a fantastic and interesting composer and man. I see that things go into his head, and then some magical process happens inside there, and they come out in a different way. And I never know how they're going to come out, and I find that very exciting. So, you know, I don't know what the sound will be, but I always know that with Dave it'll be interesting and it'll fit, because that's the experience I've had with him.
Stella.
A bright star shining in darkness.
The set, the location was a marshy area. There's a lot of water and nautical references. So I thought the best way to do that was to have a very shiny floor, so that we would get reflection and a feeling of wetness. At the 11th hour I suddenly thought of sails, again tying in with the nautical feeling of that sort of marshy area. You know, references to the hulk, Magwitch being dragged off to a hulk and so on. Miss Havisham was encaged in her own psyche. You know, she had this terrible experience and she'd built a cage for herself. And Victorian costumes, ladies' costumes, consisted of crinolines over which the dress was built. And I thought that she'd been wearing this wedding dress for many, many years, and it wore away, leaving her in the cage. In other words, leaving her in the crinoline. And that was my first feeling. I had also created a wire mask for her to carry, to help age her and to contribute to the imprisonment, feeling of imprisonment that she felt. And then it came to the rest of the costumes, and they were more or less fairly straightforward. Victorian men, Victorian women, not slavishly, you know, adhering to the historical time. So although some of the actors look as if they're dressed in a more real Victorian realistic way, there's still the formality and the abstract concept of the set and Miss Havisham.
Don't know why. Never do it again. Always thin and miserable and wretched. And never there where you want it. And always a running off to the marshes.
It helps me to see the actor's face. And the one that I, apart from Miss Havisham, the one that I enjoyed doing most was Magwitch, because Paul Morrow's got a super face. He's got a perfect Magwitch face. And I just loved creating that character. It's character drawings I do, not fashion drawings.
There is something extraordinary about this book and the adaptation that Joe Clifford has made of it that has many threads, and you can find all sorts of different things in it. But it seems to me to have an enormous heart. An enormous heart. It's very, very moving. It's very funny, but it also always makes me cry. And I find there's something very, very powerful about it, and that's why I come back to it.